is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
7 minutes after 6 on this Friday, the 19th of September, 2025. Good morning. You're listening to SAFM on 104 to 107 on the traditional radio airwaves. But as always, we are live on our YouTube channel, also on X and on Facebook, and as well as on our website, that is safm.co.za. The world you're waking up to this morning is slightly different, if not significantly different, from what it was when you went to bed last night. And that's because news and current affairs events have continued to shape, carve and contour your world with each passing minute. And that's why we are here to fully brief you as you start your day. Welcome to it, the Friday edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Here's some of what's coming up on the show in the next 3 hours. On day 2 of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry's public hearings, and the first witness, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, did not come to play, right? He was naming names and making allegations that were coming in thick and fast. He directly implicated 2 MPs, Fadil Adams and Diane Kohler-Barnard, accusing them of accessing and exposing classified crime intelligence information. Mkhwanazi also claimed businessman Vusmuzi Ket Matlala and his vehicles had his vehicles illegally fitted with blue lights, thanks to the Deputy Commissioner of the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department. He then further linked law enforcement officials and business people to organized crime figures, painting a picture of widespread interference in police operations. Here's what we will do. At the top of 7, we'll give you analysis of day 2. Just go over some of the points that were made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi on day 2 of his testimony. We'll be speaking to Professor Jacob Mofokeng, an independent crime and security expert. I was making the point earlier on off air that of all the things I heard yesterday, I thought that this story about the fitting of blue lights in a private citizen's vehicles, not one, vehicles, was just, I think for me, it just highlighted the danger if these allegations are true. Because what are the implications? You could have someone flashing their blue lights at you and you stop because you think this is genuinely a police officer. And my goodness, do you find yourself in a spot of bother very fast? So I look forward to that conversation with Professor Jerry Mofokeng at the top of 7. Johannesburg is many things, but a walker-friendly city it is not. Johannesburg has been named the least walkable city in the world in 2025, finishing dead last in a study of 90 global metros. So in a study conducted by Compare the Market, the city scored just, get this, 18.38, 18.38 out of 100 on the matrices that were measured in terms of walkability of the city, with the lowest safety rating worldwide and only a tiny fraction of residents of this city said to be living near parks or car-free zones, areas that encourage walking in an urban setting. So the researchers say most basic errands in Johannesburg require a car. And my goodness, do we know this to be true? Most basic errands require a car, with just 13% of locals living within walking distance of schools or healthcare. So that is the reality. And by comparison, cities like Prague in Czechia, former Czech Republic, Czechia, Vienna in Austria, and Tokyo in Japan. Those are celebrated as being walkable. They have walkable streets and accessible public transport. So what we will do at 10 to 7, we'll speak to Zwonaka Nechefulani, who is a researcher and also a Johannesburg resident, to weigh in on that, the walkability of the city of Joburg. If you live in the city, share your experiences. Is it walkable? Do you find it that it is possible for you to just decide that I'm going to leave the car behind and actually take a walk today? Lastly, let me highlight this story. The South African Human Rights Commission has come out strongly against what it calls a false and dangerous narrative about its composition and alleged bias in favor of foreign nationals. The pushback comes after the SAHRC suffered some backlash over the revelation that its head of research is a foreign national, a disclosure that drew some sharp criticism from some quarters, including the political party Action SA. The commission insists only 7 of its 169 staff members are non-South African, and just one of its 16 senior managers. One of 16 senior managers is a foreign national. It says its work overwhelmingly serves South Africans, pointing to more than 7,500 complaints that were finalized in the last year alone, most of them from local citizens. At about 20 past 7, I'll be in conversation with Chris Nielsen, the chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission. Morning brief team to your stations, please, for the takeoff, and Musa at the news desk, Rob Byrne on traffic. Zaikan is watching all things sport, Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief. We have Ndauling Lichela as always, with insights into the economy, business and market news. And Sipho Mandula with an overview of developments from around the continent and its diaspora. That's coming up at about 20 to 7 this morning. Let's have a conversation throughout the 3 hours, as we always do. The number to dial 086 000 2032, or send me a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. Let's get into it then. The Friday edition of the Morning Brief.
Vol, the University of the Free State is coming to you. Join us for the Postgraduate Mini Open Day on Saturday, 20 September at the Three Rivers Lodge. Between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m, you have the opportunity to explore your academic future. Discover honours, masters and PhD.
Thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So,
as always, Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief. Melissa, good morning. Let's start with news hitting our pockets. The Reserve Bank, we were watching what they were going to do with the interest rates. They decided that they're not going to move.
Yes, so the Reserve Bank's MPC has decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 7%, marking the first pause since July. Despite stronger than expected GDP growth and resilient global economy, inflation is still projected to remain above the preferred 3% target this year. Governor Lesetja Kganyago said headline inflation is expected to average 3.4% in 2025 and 3.6% in 2026, returning to 3% by 2027. The decision saw 4 MPC members vote to hold rates, while 2 supported a 25 basis point cut. The prime lending rate remains at 10.5%. So that is interesting, and let's hope it'll make a difference in people's pockets.
Yeah, well, a hold is better than what could have happened if they decided to raise it. But not that there was any suggestion that they were going to go in that way. It's been a deadly year for the taxi industry in South Africa, and passengers are suffering. Now a prominent killing in Gauteng.
Yes, so Gauteng National Taxi Association chairperson Tami Moyo was shot dead on the Soweto highway in what is expected to be a targeted hit linked to ongoing taxi violence. The National Taxi Alliance confirmed the incident, though details remain limited. Police report Moyo was ambushed by suspects in a minibus taxi and a Toyota Yaris with no valuables stolen, suggesting that it was a planned attack on him. While the motive has not been officially confirmed, the Taxi Violence Task Team may take over this case, and the Soweto highway was closed following that shooting yesterday, and Moyo's death follows another recent violent incident involving a e-hailing driver at Maponya Mall.
Yeah, we remember that incident vividly because it was one of those really, really shocking incidents that we saw in the past while. Talk to me about what the city of Ekurhuleni is saying about the position as far as essential service workers are concerned.
So the city of Ekurhuleni has welcomed a ruling by the Essential Services Committee affirming that key municipal services, including traffic, health, security, water, sanitation, and waste collection, are essential, and their workers cannot strike without a valid court order. This follows a protest by the Municipal Employees and Civil Servants Union, which is also known as MECSU, on September 12, and a failed bid to amend the classification of essential services. The city emphasized its commitment to uninterrupted service delivery and reminded workers of a recent labor court order prohibiting strike-related disruptions and intimidation within the municipality.
All right, thank you for that. Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
On the weather front, I have no warnings for you, and that's a good thing, so let's go straight to the weather. Pretoria will be fine with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 29. Johannesburg, fine, 10 to 28. Vereeniging, fine, 5 to 29. Mbombela will be partly cloudy with morning drizzle. Otherwise, it will be fine with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 27. Polokwane, fine, 12 to 26. Mahikeng, fine, 12 to 32. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy, 1 to 29. Kimberley, partly cloudy, 4 to 32. Upington, partly cloudy, 7 to 35. Cape Town will be fine with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 24. George will be fine, 8 to 20. Gqeberha, fine, 10 to 20. East London, partly cloudy, 13 to 20. Durban, partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 21. Richards Bay, partly cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 16 to 22. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 20.
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Yeah, so we're just battling a little bit to connect with our guest that we wanted to bring to you. That is Mikhail Fortiadis from Doctors Without Borders, based in the north of Gaza. So we're battling basically with the line, right? Because we wanted to talk to Mikhail about the decision by 20 major humanitarian organizations, including Doctors Without Borders, to take an unprecedented stand ahead of the annual World Leaders Debate at the UN General Assembly. They've come out with a strong statement. In fact, for its part, Doctors Without Borders saying that actually it is quite clear that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, genocide against Palestinians. They've taken that position and saying that what we are seeing in Gaza, says Doctors Without Borders, is not just a humanitarian catastrophe, but it is the systematic destruction of a people. So the call for world leaders to act comes just days after a UN Commission of Inquiry found Israel responsible for at least 4 of the 5 acts that are used to define a genocide under international law. So we were meant to speak to Mikhail Fortiadis, but as you can imagine, connectivity can be a challenge in a situation like where he is in the north of Gaza. All our efforts are just really not bearing fruit. So we'll see what we can do about bringing you that story a bit later on. Among the other stories, though, that we will be covering in this hour, actually, at about 6:45, we'll be talking about artificial intelligence. So we were talking about AI and its implications for, I think a few days we were talking about AI and inventorship and patents and trademarks and the likes. The other new debate in that regulatory space has to do with how do you grapple with artificial intelligence in the competition law space? What are its implications? So there's an opinion piece that has been written by the Deputy Commissioner of the Competition Commission, Hadin Rachisusu. In it, Hadin warns that poorly designed rules may actually hand unassailable market power to a handful of global tech giants. So who plays in the space of AI and what dominance are you going to allow in that space in terms of competition law? So we will be speaking to Hadin Rachisusu at about 6:45 to outline some of those really interesting nascent debates that will perhaps shape how we approach AI going forward. Let me take a quick voice note reflecting on the testimony of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi yesterday.
Good morning, Pratulas. This is Mbongo Sundisa. Pratulas, after watching the interview from ANCA last night, where they were interviewing an MP, I think we need to tread with caution. They were asking there, why is General Mkwana so vested in matters that are happening in Gauteng, and wherever they are going to conduct their duties there or perform their duties there, they don't inform the Commissioner of Gauteng. Why is he so interested in matters that are happening in Gauteng, not in KZN? Where is the Commissioner? Really, I think like let's wait for the commissioner. Maybe we'll be surprised or find something that we didn't expect. It really made sense, like whatever that he was saying.
Yeah, Mbongo, a cautious approach is always good. Listen from empty, I always say. Be prepared to be persuaded one way or another. So right now, it's really the reporting of the one side, the side presented by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And naturally, in this commission of inquiry, he's going to be cross-examined and have his version tested against the versions of the people that he has implicated. As far as his interest in Gauteng and elsewhere, well, he was outlining yesterday that the work that they've been doing as the political killings task team ended up taking them outside of the province. And sometimes that request coming through to say, could you assist here? Could you assist there? Because of the amount of work and the specialization that you've built up over a period of time. But let's see, when his version is tested, because ultimately that is the whole point of this commission of inquiry.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. What's the story now with this FIFA? I thought we were in the clear. It turns out we are not.
We are not. Apparently there is a probe. But you know what? SAFA is saying probe or no probe. They want results, which I think is pretty smart of them. But yeah, the South African Football Association confirming FIFA has officially opened an investigation into the Teboho Mokoena saga. The midfielder was fielded in Bafana Bafana's 2-0 World Cup qualifying win over Lesotho in March, despite being suspended for 2 yellow cards. Now, if found guilty, South Africa could be docked 3 points and handed a 3-0 loss, but Bafana could still top Group C on goal difference with 2 matches just to play. Let's go to Sekhukhune United now. They'll be looking to consolidate their place at the top of the Betway Premiership. They host Golden Arrows in one of 6 matches scheduled for this coming weekend. Sekhukhune kept up their outstanding start to the campaign. They defeated Kaizer Chiefs 3-1 away from home in midweek, becoming the first team to score against and defeat the Amakhosi this season. So this result taking them clear to the top of the log. They remain in pole position after champions Mamelodi Sundowns could only draw 1-1 with Marumo Gallants, leaving them a point behind Babina Noko despite having played an extra game. Let's go to Chippa United head coach Luke Amel says his team, they don't have the quality of players to play out with like the likes of Mamelodi Sundowns. Chippa, they registered their first win of the season, beating Orbit College 2-1. And Amel is hoping to build on their 4 points from the first 6 matches. They face an extended stay in Limpopo to visit Polokwane City on Sunday and then Sekhukhune United next Wednesday.
To continue, we have now to go two games away, and we have to take more. We have to come back from there with some points. We are going now to Polokwane, play Polokwane City. I will be happy to see the point there, and play against Sekhukhune, who is number 1 at the league. And it's true that we want to continue to collect points and to continue to go higher on the table is very important.
And finally, South Africa are still hunting for a first medal in Tokyo. Sinasipo Dambile keeps the flag flying. He was into the 200-meter final yesterday after placing 3rd in his semi-final. In the 400 meters, Zakite Nene finished 5th as Botswana's Busang Colin stormed to gold and history as his country's first world champion. Tough luck for South Africa's Wade van Niekerk out in the 200-meter semi-finals. He finished in 4th. The favourite Noah Lyles turned up the heat with a world-leading time of 19.5 0.51 seconds in Dambile's race. Jamaica's Brian Level won the other semi-final ahead of the Olympic champion Letsile Tebogo. And more heartbreak, Prudence Sekgodiso pulling out of the women's 800 meters and could not finish, and it looked like a hamstring issue. And that's your sport. We'll be back in the fast lane, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa says he hopes progress will soon be made in South Africa's efforts to improve its relations with the US. His US counterpart, Donald Trump, has said he will not attend the Johannesburg G20 summit in November. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is expected to focus on Police Minister Senzo Mqunu's alleged associate Brown Mokgotsi today. Mkhwanazi will continue to testify before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria. And the City of Cape Town's Portfolio Committee on Safety has proposed amendments to traffic bylaws which regulate the impounding of vehicles for various offences. They say they want to change driver behaviour and make roads in the city safer. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The roadwork's still there. Coming out of Brakpan and Springs on your way to Joburg, N17, westbound at Rondebolt Road. Just that single lane open to get through, and there is already queuing pressure. It's probably the heaviest of the highways outside of the Mike 1, which jams every morning. So that N17 is slow going. It probably will be until about 9 o'clock. Into Pretoria we go with the Mopani Highway, queuing down to Eskio and Pathvalley Drive. If you're on your way to Durban, coming over Van Riene's Pass and heading down through Tugela Plaza shortly thereafter, just by Tugela River, there is a truck crash. It's a big one. It's blocking the N3 Durban-bound carriageway. You can get past, but you'll be on the verge to get through that. There may be a closure required at some point of that N3 in a stacking situation to safely recover the vehicles involved in that collision scene. Crash at Paradise Valley on the N3, M13 coming into Durban, so a little bit of a slowdown there. And Cape Town this morning, N2 inbound, busy already from Robert Sobukwe, just after the airport through to Mowbray Main. N7 queuing up, passing Langa, delays there up towards sort of Beaufort Circle territory as you move through Langa to Epping. And don't forget the protesting just outside KWT King Williamstown by Berlin. So if you do the KWT East London run through on the N2, there are some burning tyres and rocks on that section of the road, just by Berlin Bridge. That's where that is all unfolding. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauling for the first update of the morning. Ndauling, the chip market on your mind in this hour. Tell me about NVIDIA backing Intel with a $5 billion investment.
Morning, Thulas, and this was a surprise move. NVIDIA announcing a $5 billion investment in Intel, striking a partnership that will see the two companies jointly develop chips for personal computers and data centers. Now, as part of the agreement, NVIDIA will acquire Intel shares, giving the struggling chip maker both fresh funding and access to cutting-edge graphics technology. In return, Intel will supply processors to support NVIDIA's data center products. The companies did not specify when the first jointly developed chips would reach the market. Now, this investment comes at a crucial time for Intel, which has been under financial strain. Over the past few months, the company has secured backing from the US government, which recently took a 10% stake, and it received a $2 billion boost from Japan's SoftBank. Intel has also been selling off assets to free up capital as it battled to catch up in the advanced semiconductor industry, an area where it has fallen behind. Now, the news was welcomed by investors, sending Intel's stock soaring. It closed the day 22% higher.
And then let's talk about Novo Nordisk making progress with its oral obesity treatment.
So the group confirmed that its experimental anti-obesity pill delivers nearly the same weight loss benefits as its injections. The announcement revived hopes that it could regain ground lost to competitor Eli Lilly and cheaper generic rivals in the highly competitive GLP-1 market. Now, Novo's pill is the first oral GLP-1 treatment submitted to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, with a regulatory decision expected before the end of the year. Production has already begun in the company's American facilities. Now, the breakthrough pits Novo directly against Eli Lilly, whose own poll has also produced promising results. Lilly plans to file for FDA approval later this year. The race between the two giants underscores the growing demand for obesity treatments, with the pill being slated as a game changer, as it could transform the access to these kinds of medications, making them cheaper and easier to distribute.
Right, Ndauling, recap for us how we closed yesterday and give us a sense of how we've opened in Asia.
So U.S. markets ended the day in the green, with analysts cheering that deal between NVIDIA and Intel. This really boosting the Nasdaq, gaining close to 1% at the close. Trade not so upbeat back at home, with a pullback in gold weighing on the resources 10 complex, but the all-share managed to eke out some gains, up 0.05%. The rand, in the meantime, trading stronger following all the rates moves, with the Fed cutting rates contributing to a softer dollar, while the SARB's decision to keep rates on hold kept the rand steady. It's sitting at 17.37 to the greenback this hour. Then over in the commodities scene, oil losing steam back below $67 per barrel, and with tensions between Ukraine and Russia worrying traders as it could affect supply dynamics. Lastly, in Asia, trade mostly in the red there. Investors are digesting the Bank of Japan's move to leave rates unchanged.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you again in the second hour, just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, let's start in Malawi. It looks like there could be a change of guard at State House in Lilongwe, but actually it's the return of the old guard, it would seem.
Refreshing morning to us and Jumbo Africa. Indeed, to us, what you are saying, that the Professor Albert Peter Mutharika might be going back to the State House at the age of 85 to us. I'm sitting with many observer mission reports to us. Maybe we'll deal with them next week. I'm sitting with the AU, COMESA, SADC, EU, Africa Governance, because that's where we are able to assess. But the unofficial results to us that even the Malawi Electoral Commission did not want to confirm per se, they are indicating that Peter Mutharika is poised to win the presidency with majority vote. Here we are talking about above 50% to us. Probably others have indicated about 60% that Professor Mutharika. Yesterday, remember, I did indicate some of the regions that he has been leading according to this unofficial results. There's pressure mounting to the Malawian Electoral Commission to us to at least give a preliminary update by over today or over the weekend, so that we know. It appears the Bishop Lazarus Chakwera might be losing to us.
My goodness, what a fascinating turn of events. Talk to me about the DRC and the swift trial that has been held in absentia for former President Joseph Kabila. We're expecting a verdict, are we?
To us, we are expecting the verdict today, but coincidentally, I don't know whether you saw on the cable, they call it an unannounced visit. It says a lady was in the Union building with President Ramaphosa as well. To us, Vincent said he's talking everything peace and bilateral trade. But look at this core, what I call the core incidents, that today the high military court in Kinshasa have to pass its verdict on the trial of former President Joseph Kabila. Remember, I said that there was new evidence that they have said they are even want to change the charges to espionage, because they are alleging that Kabila is not a Congolese, he's a Rwandese. And also, Thulas, Kabila has come out very clear. He said this is a political witch hunt. He does not agree with it. This trial, it is all about dealing with his past. But as I said, Thulas, let's wait and see today what will happen in Kinshasa in absentia when Joseph Kabila will be charged. But it will be interesting to know also what was the meeting between Tshisekedi and President Ramaphosa.
Yeah, it really would be. I wonder how much detail would be privileged with, will be favored with from that meeting. Sipho, the layering familial relationships onto the politics on the continent always makes for fascinating reading. Tell me about the situation now in Togo and the sister-in-law of the president. What has happened?
We are talking about Margarita Kanakate. This was a former Minister of Defense between 2020 and 2022. Now, the president called for him, he arrested him this week, because this is a woman who has been calling for him to step down to us. Now, this charge is laid against your sister-in-law. We know that Faure Gansagibe Tulas came into power almost 20 years ago. His father ruled that country for 38 years. Now, the sister-in-law has been pushing, saying, but you want to amend the constitution to have you don't want the term limit. And now this week, he had to ask the police to arrest his sister-in-law, a former defense minister. No immunity, even if you're in a family circle to that.
Yeah, no, always interesting to watch the family dynamics playing themselves out where politics and power, where it all intersects on the African continent. In the land of the upright in Burkina Faso, one of my favorite countries, tell me about these, reaching out in a way by ECOWAS to Burkina Faso. Tell me about the visit by the president of Sierra Leone.
This is the chairperson of ECOWAS, and others are saying he's the first leader of the bloc to visit the member of Sahelian Alliance of States. And others are looking at this as a turning point in the relations. He met with Ibrahim Traore at the presidential palace in Koluba. And some of the issues that they have to engage was to say, Julius Madabio, I'm here to offer solidarity with the people of Burkina Faso, that you are not alone. They will try to assist them to restore peace. Because you will recall that even in the silent state, there's still tensions in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso with many armed rebel groups. But this visit, it says something to us. One will appear that will seem that the president of Ghana, Mahama, has been influential in the ECOWAS to say, in the 5 decades of ECOWAS, the 50 years of ECOWAS, why are we still isolating the founding members like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger? Let us engage them. And that's how we hope that in the Sahel, there will be sanity in terms of its relation with ECOWAS.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they navigate those dynamics. Lastly, Sipho, your historical archive takes us to the 21st of September, 1909. A significant day, isn't it?
It is to be on a Sunday. If you check, I went far, not to talk about today, but I went on a Sunday looking at that. In the 20th century, one of the people who drew our attention to the dangers of imperialism and neo-colonialism, and the need to understand it and defeat it without doubt, that was Kwame Nkrumah, the street graduate. This man was born on the 21st of September 1909. In Ghana, it's a holiday, by the way. They will call it Kwame Nkrumah's Memorial Day or the Founders Day. It is a public holiday, and that's where they are celebrating the birth anniversary of the first Prime Minister and the President of Ghana, who led Ghana from the independence from the UK. So it's a very important Sunday in the capital city of Accra, as well as around Ghana. Tulas, very important day in our historical archives. Asante sana Tulas, as was leading the conversation, SFM observing the Heritage Month.
Sipho, thank you for that. Have a fantastic weekend. That's Sipho Mandula with the Africa Update for today.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of
is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApp.
Prime time all day long.
Competition watchdogs across the world are grappling with how to regulate artificial intelligence, and there's a view emerging that getting this aspect wrong could entrench monopolies and stifle innovation. In an opinion piece, Deputy Commissioner of the Competition Commission, Hadin Ratchisusu, warns that poorly designed rules may hand unassailable market power to a handful of global tech giants. But if regulators succeed, he says, AI could unlock productivity, open markets, and drive innovation and inclusion. So let's talk to him then. He joins me on the line to talk about this. Hadin Ratchisusu, Deputy Competition Commissioner. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So I must say, I did not think about AI in the context of competition law, right? There was this whole debate that we've been having recently about AI in the inventorship, intellectual property space. But in competition, how do you foresee, and from the conversations you've been having at the BRICS International Competition Conference, how do you see that space evolving?
Good morning to Thulasizwe and the SAF viewers. Indeed, I think you are right that the focus on AI has been, on other aspects of it. But from the competition regulation point of view, and as we are tasked with regulating markets in the economy, we look at all developments in the economy and how they would shape markets. And AI in particular is that technology, and not that it has not been there before, but the kinds of advances you are seeing today, the countries or companies that are producing chips, very few in the world. And if you want to benefit as a country or your own local companies to be integrated in these value chains, we have to ensure that these markets are competitive and are not dominated just by a few players, because we may end up just being recipients of these products but never have any homegrown AI-driven products that also address our own unique local challenges and also understand our own languages. So this is very, very important.
Yeah, and I suppose I hadn't thought of it that way because we are not a player in the chip manufacturing sector in the way that you describe. But nevertheless, I imagine that it adds a layer of complexity. The innovations around AI and the markets that it's producing adds a layer of complexity to what's already a complicated and complex market in as far as the digital space is concerned.
No, indeed. I think we need to be able ourselves as regulators to understand these markets and how AI influences dynamics of competition in a market. Because if we do not understand this, we may not be able to regulate effectively. So we cannot, for instance, be deploying tools, for markets maybe of 10, 15 years ago. The markets are different. Who competes with who in this day and age is it's a very different idea, and it's a different focus. And if you look at what we have done in BRICS in particular, you have mentioned the BRICS Competition Conference. We've been talking about advances in AI as BRICS countries, for the past 2 years, and seeing how, as regulators, should we be responding. But also, we do note that as we do this, we also advocate for our governments to invest in AI infrastructure. So including, your cloud infrastructure, ensuring that we have sufficient energy to boost, production, of the kinds of servers and support that we require for these markets, because they are here now. This is no longer, about some, dream or something we are thinking about. It is a reality of today.
In fact, earlier on, Victor Khomiaswana reporting while talking to Elvis Preslin about Strive Masiwa's plans to invest with NVIDIA in some AI technologies and, investments in AI on the African continent, including South Africa. So in terms of thinking about regulation then, what's the best thought about how to approach this area? The tools that we have are well-established traditional tools. We adapt them as and when situations arise. What's your best thinking about how to avoid such issues as monopolization, as well as all of these issues about algorithm, biases and the likes?
We are quite, conscious of a lot of, mechanisms in how AI functions. So if you look at it, there's what we call algorithmic pricing. So what you are finding now, there's a lot of, individualized prices. We regulate excessive prices, but you'll find that, with more advanced AI, the price I get, the price you get, the time, depending on the time of day, may be different.
Yeah.
How do we respond to this? Which price would we say maybe it's exploitative, and which price would we say it's not exploitative? Mm-hmm. Those are the questions. There's also aspects of algorithmic collusion, where the algorithms, because these are run by AI, they learn from each other. They coordinate, their activities, right? But we are used to regulating a company, a firm. But now, how do we regulate an AI tool? This is something that not just in South Africa, by the way, the US, EU, even in the OECD, we are now grappling with this as to what kind of competition regulation do you require to be able to respond and protect consumers, but also ensure that the markets are competitive and accessible.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Harden Ratchisusu, Deputy Commissioner at the Competition Commission.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Coming into Pretoria this morning, there's a backlog on both the Mopani Highway and Eskia and Pathalia at their junction. Normally, when you get that sort of backlog, it points to traffic lights out, so there may just be an extra wait to get on both of those routes into Pretoria today. N1 north of the capital, just queuing up towards Garsfontein. Looks like something's happened there. Joburg, obviously the N17 is slow, coming backbound through Boksburg into the roadworks, and the N1 through Deep Cliff interchange, touch on the brakes and in the queues from Golden Highway through the interchange down towards Uncle Charlie's territory. Durban, crash going inbound at Pavilion. That is all cleared up. M7 up over St John's Avenue Bridge, looking busy again this morning. And quite a big truck crash up by Tugela River. If you're coming over Van Riener's Pass on your way down towards Durban as you get through Tugela Plaza, then just down a bit as you approach Tugela River, quite a backlog of traffic into that particular scene. It's everybody into the verge, trucks and motor vehicles into the verge to get past it. Cape Town, N2 into town between Robert Sobukwe and Hospital Bend, looking quite slow. The N1 from Kiel-Basson through to Sable Road, a little bit easier than normal. And Baden-Powell, it's a problem at the N2 bridge these days. Baden-Powell on your way to Stellenbosch, just queuing at that N2 bridge, and that's going to very shortly just queue traffic coming out of town on the N2, wanting to get off at that Baden-Powell off-ramp. We'll keep you up to date with that and so much more. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
We all know a Miss Sarah, that parent who randomly calls to check up on you.
When are you visiting?
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful.
5 minutes to 7 on this Friday. Johannesburg has been named the least walkable city in the world in 2025, finishing dead last in a study of 90 global metros. In a study conducted by Compare the Market, the city scored just 18.38 out of 100, with the lowest safety rating worldwide and only a tiny fraction of residents said to be living near parks or car-free zones. Researchers say most basic errands in the city require a car, with just 13% of locals living within walking distance of schools or healthcare facilities. Let's speak to Zwonaka Nechefulani, who is a lawyer, researcher, and resident of Joburg. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Does this finding by Compare the Market align with your experiences and work that you do in the city of Johannesburg?
I mean, absolutely. I don't do any work in the city of Johannesburg. I used to a very long time ago. But I mean, as a resident, someone who lives here full time, it definitely does. It definitely does.
What makes Joburg a not so walkable, least walkable city? What are the factors at play?
I mean, recently with the reopening of Bree Street, you kind of see the contrast between what has been done there. The sidewalks or the pavements are a lot wider. There's a lot more wastage. There's a lot more control on the streets of traffic, etc.
Zwonaka? All right, we seem to be having a bit of a challenge with the line to Zwonaka. Let's see if we can get a connection back to continue the conversation. Just talking about the city of Joburg, and I think Zwonaka was touching on the recent work done on Bree Street, Lillian Ngoyi Street. Part of the work I do now requires me to go to the city of Joburg quite frequently. By city of Joburg, I don't mean the entirety of the metro. I'm talking about the actual CBD of Joburg, and my goodness, what an experience it is. Zwonaka, you are making the point of the contrast between Lillian Ngoyi Street before and Lillian Ngoyi Street now as a factor in the walkability of the city.
I mean, you can see the contrast, right? Lillian Ngoyi is a lot more friendly to pedestrians. The sidewalks are a lot wider. There's so much more rubbish collection. The street lights work, and so pedestrians are able to cross at safe zones and things of that nature. Whereas before, you can see when you walk on the non-rehabilitated streets, that there's a lot less space for pedestrian usage. The taxis also make life quite difficult. They park as and where they please. The non-functioning of traffic lights also makes life very difficult. When you then go down to the older sections of the city, like the Mining Mall, for example, near Main Street, you really do have a sense of a walkable city. Coffee shops, tree-lined areas, non-car zones or very narrow car zones as well. So there is possibility, there's ability, there is space for that, but it's not spread out through the city.
So that's traditional, classic, old Joburg. But what about the newer parts of Joburg, the parts that are developing now as development has moved away from the CBD? Are we seeing any thinking around this city needs to be walkable? It needs to allow for that. I have in mind, for example, that bridge over the highway from the side of Fordsburg, from the side where, Alex is, to the side of Sandton. Are we seeing more and more of that kind of thinking?
I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't be sure. My biggest experience, I think, was when I was as a candidate attorney for an NGO that was working in the inner city a long time ago. And they were really concerned about the policy decisions around where people are supposed to live and around evictions. But now, really, as a resident, you don't see a lot of development happening on the ground that enables that kind of work. There is some rehabilitation, but it's very stop and start. And it seems more at the will of kind of private owners who decide, oh, well, since we're here, we should rehab or fix this. But I don't know necessarily if it's being driven by the city.
Yeah. All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. That's Zwonaka Nechefulani, who is a lawyer, researcher, and a resident of Joburg, just sharing some of the observations that she's made living in the city of Joburg. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Remember when one park star was mayor of Joburg and was creating bicycle lanes in various parts of Joburg? That was for bicycles. I wonder if we didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater to say, actually, while those were unpopular at the time, people were saying it's not a priority. Could we have started a conversation that says, you are on the right path, think a bit more about walkability and connectivity by foot as opposed to connectivity by road. All right, let's go to N. Musa now on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo?
In our top stories, President Ramaphosa hopeful relations with the US will improve, and Mkhwanazi to focus on Brian Mokgotsi at Matlanga Commission. Good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he hopes progress will soon be made in South Africa's efforts to improve its relations with the US. His US counterpart, Donald Trump, has said he will not attend the Johannesburg G20 summit in November. But Ramaphosa says he has invited him to accept the G20 presidency handover in person. Ramaphosa told SABC News yesterday that channels had improved in the two countries' talks to address the recent US tariff increase.
The fact that formal negotiations have now started, and it's no longer, tweets and social media messages, it's now formal negotiations. People are in the White House talking about important issues of trade and all that. That for us is a great advance. It's a great progress forward, and we are hoping that those discussions will be well concluded.
KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is expected to focus on Police Minister Senzo Mchunu's alleged associate Brian Mokgotsi today. Mkhwanazi will continue to testify before the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria. Mkhwanazi has fingered Mokgotsi, a Northwest-based businessman, as one of the key figures that interfere in high-profile police investigations. The commission is investigating Mkhwanazi's allegations that senior police officials, including Mchunu, are corrupt and have links to criminal syndicates. Mchunu is currently on special leave. Sibahle Mota reports.
General Mkhwanazi told the Commission that suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu placed on record in Parliament that he did not know who Brian Mokgotsi was. However, Mchunu would later change his version of events on social media X in a private conversation with another user that Mokgotsi is his comrade. Mkhwanazi has further testified that Mokgotsi is linked to underworld figures with people who are not only involved in criminality but also a subject of police investigations. The KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner is expected to expound more on Mokgotsi's link with Mchunu today.
The City of Cape Town's Portfolio Committee on Safety has proposed amendments to traffic bylaws which regulate the impounding of vehicles for various offences. They say they want to change driver behaviour and make roads in the city safer. The amendments will also be used to hold accountable those who don't pay traffic fines. The committee's chairperson, Mzwake Ngqavashe.
Things like driving on the shoulder, driving in oncoming traffic, disregarding the channeling lanes, things like hindering and obstructing traffic, overloading, overtaking on a solid barrier line, if I may summarize there. And also we included a driver that has accumulated ARTO demerits.
Parents of learners at the Wedela Technical School in Gauteng say they are worried about their future. The learners have been boycotting classes since Tuesday this week. They accuse school management and the Provincial Education Department of failure to address a lack of water and electricity at the school. The problem has persisted for many years. The parents say they want the problem to be urgently addressed and lessons to resume.
As parents, I want to see kids going back to school, number one. And then the other problem that we are having, they said they will fix it. They will make sure they bring a JoJo for us to have more water for the kids. And the issue of electricity, they will deal with it later on because it's been years without electricity at the school. So we are worried about the situation of kids not attending school because of tomorrow they are going to become other things. We don't know what.
And finally, the US has again vetoed a UN Security Council draft resolution demanding an immediate, unconditional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The elected 10 members of the council put forward the text, which received 14 votes in favour, including 4 of the 5 permanent members with veto power. But it was the US that cast its 6th veto over the almost 2-year war between Israel and Hamas. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
The text demanded not only a permanent ceasefire, but recalled earlier demands for the immediate, dignified and unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas and other groups, and further demanded that the government of Israel unconditionally lift all restrictions on the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. The US representative called the draft unacceptable, accusing the council of a performative action designed to draw a veto, arguing that the draft resolution would provide Hamas with a lifeline while continuing to insist that Israel had the right to defend itself. The latest vote demonstrated the growing isolation of the United States and Israel in relation to ending the catastrophe unfolding in Gaza.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa says he hopes progress will soon be made in South Africa's efforts to improve its relations with the US. His US counterpart, Donald Trump, has said he will not attend the Johannesburg G20 summit in November. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
You are the poster child, the biggest saver.
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
That's to the final, the Currie Cup final happening at Ellis Park. So they are under pressure. And we've also got cricket. The Proteas women are brimming with confidence as they head into today's second one-day international against Pakistan in Lahore. We'll bring you the details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We kick it off in Pretoria with some queuing pressure just noticeable on the N1 North through to Garsfontein. You get to Rigel Avenue, just sort of starts to slow up on that run through to Garsfontein. That is a crash. We're just getting that in now. So N1 North into that section, pretty heavy this morning. N1 Joburg side through Malabongwe towards Ravodi is heavy. The N3 sitting from Elan's interchange through to Geluli's at this stage. Durban crash earlier on the N3 inbound Pavilion Mall. That's all being cleared up. There is a bottleneck and a half to work through over Van Renen's Pass down towards Escort this morning. That's a crash halfway down near Tugela River. So if you're coming over the pass on your way to Durban, quite a bottleneck of truck and vehicular traffic queuing up to get past the truck crash scene at that Tugela River area. Cape Town, N2 inbound slow this morning from the airport all the way through to Hospital Bend. Baden-Powell queuing at Strandfontein Road towards Muizenberg and starting to backlog on your way to Stellenbosch at the N2 Highway Bridge. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Friday. It's great to be in your company. Lots of ground to cover, so let me quickly tell you what's coming up. We'll be reflecting on day 2 of the public hearings of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, which was also day 2 for Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, on the stand delivering his testimony. On standby to talk to me in the next few minutes, Professor Jacob Mofokeng. And immediately after that, we'll hear from the South African Human Rights Commission, who are coming out and responding to some of the criticism that has been leveled at them recently following a revelation, a disclosure really on their part that their head of research is a non-South African, a foreign national. That saw some backlash from some quarters, including Action SA, as well as the criticism you hear from time to time that says they tend to prioritize the interests of foreign nationals. The SAHRC has responded with a lengthy media statement that basically outlines the work that they do, arguing that actually the data doesn't back up that criticism. Chris Nissen is the chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission and will talk to me at about 7:20. Your calls on 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. Let's get into it then. The second hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief.
Let's rewind 6 years. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM.
And State Theatre, Music in the Air. From 12 to 28 September at the Arena Theatre, enjoy South Africa's greatest 80s and 90s hits with music from icons like Hugh Masekela and Miriam Makeba. Written and directed by Joel Zuma. Tickets, only 200 Rand at Web Tickets and Pick and Pay. Don't miss out.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
12 minutes after 7. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi came out swinging on day 2 of the Madlanga Commission public hearings, dropping names and making allegations that came in thick and fast. He directly implicated MPs Fadil Adams and Diane Kohler-Barnard, accusing them of accessing and exposing classified crime intelligence information. Mkhwanazi also claimed that businessman Vusumuzi Ketmatlala had his vehicles illegally fitted with blue lights thanks to a senior Ekurhuleni Metro Police officer. He further linked law enforcement officials and business people to organized crime figures, painting a picture of widespread interference in police operations. So let's speak to Professor Jacob Mofokeng, independent crime and security expert. But before we do that, take a listen to an excerpt of some of what Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi had to say.
The Mr. Matlala, Ket Matlala, Vusmus Ket Matlala, is one fellow that has been enjoying too much privilege from the law enforcement. And the typical example is that one of, or at least few of his vehicles, not talking about the number, but it's a couple of them, 4 or 5, the number will be confirmed through the report. His personal vehicles were registered by the Deputy Chief of Police at Ekurhuleni, that is Major General Mkhwanazi. He facilitated the registration of these Mr. Matlala's vehicles under the municipality as if they are municipality official vehicles, utilizing the funds from the municipality of Ekurhuleni. So the vehicles then belong on record, when you test them on the system, they reflect as if they belong to municipality. It did not end there, commissioners. He took these vehicles and he caused the municipality to take the blue lights that belongs to municipality. The blue lights are supposed to be for the law enforcement vehicles within municipality, and he fitted those blue lights in these vehicles. And these vehicles were then given to Mr. Ket Matlala.
All right, so there was an excerpt of the testimony from yesterday. Let's speak to Professor Jacob Mofokeng, independent crime and security expert. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. Your overall impressions of day 2 of the evidence of the KZN Provincial Police Commissioner.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to SAFM listeners. Well, he remains consistent in terms of what he submitted, and we are aware that indeed a lot is expected from him, that the accusations that he made, then he should be supported by evidence. So what he has been submitted thus far, then it seems like that it is consistent in terms of what he's made, suggestion as well as allegations that indeed there is so much compromise as well as infiltration, of various individuals and powerful business people as well as criminal networks within the criminal justice system. So he also made mention of, remember, there was a vacancy of, is it the Hawks?
Yes.
Where there was also names mentioned that already, there was a circulation of information regarding who was supposed to be, appointed to that. That talks to, the compromise as well as, the so-called capture in terms of within the criminal justice system, that whoever will then be appointed. And, we're talking also about those names that you made mention within the crime intelligence, meaning that many systems, the ecosystems of the criminal justice system then faces the risk of being really, compromised to such an extent that individuals will make, submissions as well as directions. You also made mention of Ket Matlala's vehicles being, marked as well as being provided with blue light. It really undermines the democracy as well as the principles that people of South Africa have voted so that we can have a better country.
What do you make of his approach? The approach I thought he was adopting, in fact, I think he spelled it out at some point during the testimony, that the approach is various incidents and activities that on their own may seem like, it's an incident here, an incident there. But if you pull it all together, it talks to and it completes the puzzle of what he says were efforts to undermine the work of law enforcement, particularly the political killings task team, as well as the Gauteng counterintelligence operations.
Yes, indeed. When you bring all these pieces together, they talk to, the paralysis of the criminal justice system, undermining of those that are placed, in terms of section either 207 or 205, the mandate of the South African Police Service, but also the operations of the, the commissioner as an, the one who's leading. So indeed, on a face value, it might be uncoordinated, undermining of the criminal justice system. But what he's submitting to us, it shows that that is a systematic cancer that has, taking, a toll within the criminal justice system, meaning those that will be appointed, many times we don't understand why individuals had to be appointed, but they remain ineffective. But you can see that behind the scenes, there are forces that are at play that, when, with the evidence that he submitted, that it shows definitely that we are going nowhere slowly because of these forces that are busy at play within the criminal justice system.
How important is it then that he holds up during cross-examination as well as when he comes back a bit later on, I think in phase 3 of the commission, after the commission has heard from some of the people that he is implicating? How important will it be for him to hold up in terms of the versions that he has given, but secondly, to back it up with evidence? We've seen he keeps holding up his phone from time to time where it's WhatsApp messages that he says, I've got them on my phone. We've seen the letters that he's produced that he managed to acquire. But how important will it be that overall, or a large percentage of his testimony is actually backed up by evidence and he holds up on the stand?
I think many people, if not the majority of the people of South Africa, they hold their breath in terms of whatever that he submitted, once tested, because you made mention of 3 phases, of which currently is on phase 1, where he's making submission together with whoever will be mentioned and will come to the commission to, either to counter these allegations and then when he's recalled on phase 3, that's when now, maybe to clarify certain things. Members of the public, they so wish that whatever that he has submitted will really stand the test, of whoever then will come to make this allegation. It is very much important, because it could seen as a last hope of the people of South Africa, where justice need to be seen to be implemented, where those that interfered in the the running of the criminal justice system should really account, and so that remedial actions should be really be implemented by the president once the commission has made such recommendations.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time, Professor Jacob Mofokeng, independent crime and security expert.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 450-gram Bacoma Wheat Bix for $26.99.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
The Nedbank World Youth Cup 2025 in Gibraltar from the 19th to the 28th of September 2025. These are our rising stars. #Together we rise. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
22 minutes after 7. The South African Human Rights Commission has come out strongly against what it calls a false and dangerous narrative about its composition and alleged bias in favor of foreign nationals. The pushback comes after backlash over the revelation that its head of research is a foreign national, a disclosure that drew sharp criticism from some quarters, including the political party Action SA. The Commission insists only 7 of its 169 staff members are non-South Africans, and just 1 of its 16 senior managers is a foreign national. Let's speak to the Commission chairperson, Chris Nissen, who joins me now. Good morning to you, Commissioner, and thank you for your time. So the charge, I hear it almost constantly sitting in this chair on a daily basis from some quarters among South Africans. The charge laid out in simple terms is that where is the South African Human Rights Commission when the rights of South Africans are violated? They are so quick to be touched and to get up and stand up for the rights of foreign nationals. And now we learn that they also employ foreign nationals among their ranks. What's your response to that charge?
Good morning to the viewers, the listeners of SFM, and good morning to you, my colleague. I think it's a misinformation that that we have. We're looking after the rights of others and not the rights of South Africans. When we released our report, you would have seen that the number of complaints that we've received, over 6,000 in our state of human rights in South Africa, that our women and men in the commission are attending to on a daily basis. And in terms of where we sit with regard to the as the institutions such as the Human Rights Commission, we do have international relationships with with human rights commissions on the continent, human rights through NANRI, which is called National African Human Rights Institution, and also through GANRI, which is the international one, the Global Alliance of Human Rights Commissions in the world. So it is not true that we're looking after non-national rights more than South African citizens' rights. We do on a daily basis from a socioeconomic rights such as health, water, sanitation, education, etc. But we do have, of course, non-nationals within our organization, which is minuscule, less than 2%, as part of international best practices, etc. But we are on a daily basis working on the South African landscape with regard to human rights. But our act is also clear that we need to look at human rights of all people in South Africa.
Yeah.
That is what our act is saying, and we have to follow our act.
So that last part, does it talk to the criticism, for instance, in the recent activities of groupings like Operation Dudula, where they were seeking to prevent foreign nationals from accessing public healthcare facilities, that you were also criticized within that context for standing up for the rights of non-South Africans to access public healthcare? So that last part about rights for everyone in the country, is that your response to that criticism?
Well, the response to the criticism is, by law, the Human Rights Commission has to look at everybody's rights within the Republic of South Africa. That's what the Act is saying. However, what we need to understand is that, Dudula has given us visited our offices and given us some of our officers and we've been working. We've given them a response on their requests and the demands. The problem is that we are missing sometimes. We are missing that organizations are not pushing enough on the rights of all our people. And that's why I'm saying that, in terms of what we've received, complaints. And then secondly, we've done inquiries and hearings. Just recently, the malnutrition, we have, for example, subpoenaed mayors. Last 2 weeks ago, we subpoenaed the Premier of the Eastern Cape on the malnutrition of children dying in the Eastern Cape. And we got a very good response. So to say that we are prioritizing the rights of non-nationals more than South Africans is totally untrue.
So what have you made of the narratives that have sought to question even your own integrity as a Chapter 9 institution, some of them questioning who funds you, who sponsors you, who donates to the South African Human Rights Commission? I'm sure you've heard all of those. In fact, I'm looking at one. In fact, I'm looking at one here. My apologies there, Chair. I'm looking at one here that says, ask the human rights person about the nice donations they receive, nice cars they drive, salaries, etc.
Absolutely untrue. Absolutely untrue. Let me start with myself. I'm driving a Baleno. And it's a Suzuki. It's a Baleno.
Yes.
I'm driving a Suzuki, a small car. Even when we travel, because of our cost containment, we are driving small cars. And we ask that the instruction for myself even is that when cars are rented for us, it must be small cars. So it's untrue. And let me say to you, the Human Rights Commission does not receive any donations. None at all. We are under scrutiny for everything we do. And so we don't get donations from no one. If we collaborate with institutions, whether it is a university or whether it is from the UN agencies, it is in collaboration.
Yeah.
But the Commission does not get any donations, and we don't drive these expensive cars. I'm saying where I sit, I drive a Berlino Suzuki.
All right. Commissioner, let's leave it there. Thank you for your time, and thank you for responding to these issues that have, as I say, have consistently been coming up, including in these conversations. In your statement, you cite social media, but I can tell you that I also receive a lot of these issues, so I'm glad we've been able to get you on air to respond to those. Chris Nesson is the chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission. Tell you what, let's go to Ann Musa before we go to Zaikan.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the National Transport Department has expressed shock at the assassination of the Gauteng chairperson of the National Taxi Alliance, Thamsanqa Moyo. He was shot along the Soweto Highway near Diepkloof yesterday. The Umzimkhulu Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal is today expected to hear closing arguments in the bail application of a former municipal manager accused of killing former councillor and ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaka. And President Cyril Ramaphosa says he hopes progress will soon be made in South Africa's efforts to improve its relations with the US. His US counterpart, Donald Trump, has said he will not attend the Johannesburg G20 summit in November. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, tell me about the Rugby Lions. Under pressure are they to deliver in the Currie Cup final at Emirates Airlines Park?
Yes, Thulas, the Lions are desperate for this one. Not just to lift that Currie Cup, but they want to prove that they can roar at Ellis Park, because they want to give their fans also something to roar about. It's all happening tomorrow, 3 p.m., the final of the high-stakes Currie Cup encounter. Now, after 4 seasons of disappointment in the URC, this final representing a chance to restore pride for the Lions, and they're looking to hopefully get this one through. The Greek was, meanwhile, they arrived with belief and nothing to lose over a clinical win, and they had that over the Cheetahs. So looking forward to bringing you that action and updates. Now, more action today in cricket. The Proteas women are brimming with confidence. They head into today's second one-day international against Pakistan in Lahore. South Africa cruised to an 8-wicket victory in the opening match thanks to unbeaten centuries from Marizan Kapp and Tamsin Brits that combined for a record 216-run stand. Now, looking forward to seeing that encounter. They'll be all being bowled at around 12:30. That's when play gets underway with the Proteas women looking to wrap up the 3-match series early. In the meantime, the South African Football Association says Bafana remain focused on qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, despite confirmation that FIFA is investigating the Teboho Mokoena saga. The midfielder was fielded against Lesotho earlier this year while suspended for yellow card accumulation. If found guilty, South Africa could be docked 3 points and the result overturned. But Bafana could still top Group C on goal difference with 2 qualifiers to play. They have matches against Zimbabwe and Rwanda to seal a World Cup spot. On to more soccer, the Chippa United head coach Luke Emil says his side cannot try to mirror Mamelodi Sundowns' style of playing, insisting his squad requires a more direct approach. The Belgian tactician guided Chippa to their first win of the season against Orbit College and is now looking to build momentum ahead of clashes with Polokwane City and Sekhukhune United. He also welcomed the new goalkeeper coach, Walid Ben Othman, a long-time colleague from the DRC.
Yeah, he worked with us, sure, he worked with us. What I said to him now, he was working with me in Tunisia, in Libya, he worked with me also in Congo. We flew Popo, where we qualified the team for the Champions League, and we had the most clean sheets, so yes, and I had Simon Mosolana, goalkeeper. Was a goalkeeper from Cameroon, second goalkeeper who became number 1. And now, it's another way of working, but it's there. It's very important. He has a lot of experience, and all together, I think we succeed to take this team a bit, to lift up a bit Chiba United.
And that's where we'll leave it for now. We'll bring you more sport, top of the hour. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Urgent alert of heavy delays in Pretoria. It's this collision on the M1 North between Rigel and Garsfontein. Northbound, a couple of lanes closed on the right, so that's heavy. And the big high-volume southbound getting caught having a look at this. So from Linwood Road down through Atterbury, through Garsfontein towards Rigel, it's heavy. It's equally heavy, both north and southbound on that section of the N1. Iski and Pethali coming into the city centre of Pretoria. That's busy. A couple of traffic light issues this morning causing delays there. Joburg crash coming up through Deep Cliff Interchange. If you're in from Lenasia, Protea Glenside, you get up to Devland on the N1, then you slow all the way through Deep Cliff Interchange down to a crash as you head through the interchange towards Uncle Charlie. Still queuing by Tugela River on the N3, that is Durban bound. Once you get over Van Rynen's Pass and down into that crash scene, that is quite a heavy backlog to work through. Durban's M13 coming on from Hillcrest down to Kloof, that's very slow. M7 into Pinetown St John's Avenue Bridge, all backed up again today. And then Cape Town, a crash on the Jakes Kerville Drive, N7 North, right in the heart of Goodwood at Voortrekker Road. That's a big queue this morning from the N2 through Langa, through Epping and up in towards the Goodwood area. And Baden-Powell Drive, sitting traffic on the N2 Highway Bridge. That is going to impact the N2 outbound as you off-ramp into that traffic on Baden-Powell. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. Pat is the word, isn't it? As far as the Reserve Bank is concerned and that decision on rates.
That's right, Thulas. The SARB striking a hawkish tone, keeping the repo rate unchanged at 7%, which leaves the prime lending rate that commercial banks use at 10.5%. Now, the governor, Lesetja Kganyago, said the decision reflected the need to pause and assess the impact of previous cuts. This as the central bank has reduced rates by 125 basis points since September last year. Yesterday's pause comes against the backdrop of rising global and domestic pressures, including the implementation of the U.S. tariffs on local goods and lingering concerns over electricity costs and how that impacts inflation. Kganyago noted that inflation is expected to climb in the coming months, peaking at about 4%. Driven by higher administration prices, that is the likes of your electricity costs, water costs, municipal costs. The SARB has adjusted its forecast for electricity inflation to nearly 8% from 6% after nurses' tariff correction. Rising meat and vegetable prices and sticky fuel costs are also contributing to upward price pressure. Still, the stronger rand has cushioned some of the impact. Now, on growth, the SARB turning a bit more positive, raising its 2025 GDP forecast from 0.9% to 1.2%, following an unexpected 0.8% expansion in the second quarter.
All right, so this is an interesting one, Dowling, out of the agriculture sector. We've focused a lot about the tariffs and the likely implications for exports and the likes. Despite all of that, the country's farmers are actually banking on other markets and actually anticipate record export volumes.
That's right, Thulas. The local citrus sector is gearing up for its strongest export season yet, with farmers expecting record shipments despite challenges in global trade. Now, the industry has had to navigate those new tariffs from the US and stricter plant health regulations imposed by the EU, but they say that demand for fruits remains robust. In a News 24 article, Bitogo Nchabele, Chief Executive of the Citrus Growers Association of Southern Africa, said producers were reaping the benefits of rising appetite for orange and lemon juice internationally, coupled with the smoother operations at the country's ports. Nchabela highlighted that farmers had felt the positive impact of improved port performance, with new equipment and incentive systems at Transnet making a noticeable difference. Adding to that, he said the industry is on course to deliver the highest export volumes on record to Europe and beyond this year. In August, the association revised its forecast for the current season, upward to 188.2 million cartons of fruit, up 10% from the earlier estimate of 171 million.
All right, that's nice. I won't even lie. What do they say? What do the young people say? I ain't mad at that story at all. That long may it continue, so that we find new markets and keep it moving, guys. Trade where trade is possible and make that revenue as much as possible. How are the markets looking at this hour?
Kicking things off in Asia, trade is mixed as investors assess the Bank of Japan's decision to stand pat on rates. The Japanese Nikkei taking a hit, shedding close to 0.5%. And then stateside, futures are flat after yesterday's upbeat finish. Traders still chewing on the Fed's latest monetary policy move, while reacting to recent M&A activity in the tech sector. And then coming back home, markets mostly in the green, with the JSE All Share eking out gains up 0.05%. Meanwhile, the Rand is trading stronger following those big rate moves. It's at 17.36 to the greenback this hour. Then in commodities, oil taking some strain, sitting below the $67 per barrel mark this morning.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you one more time just after 8:30.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Empowerment and break communication barriers. Let's listen with our hearts and not our ears. Learn and embrace a South African sign language. Join us throughout September for commemoration events, activities that educate, connect, and inspire. Visit our website, foundationnima.org, for more information. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the heart and art of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th September, Umo Sangare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Ngo and the Noisemakers, Najpong Trio, Michelle Ndegeyechelo Velemsini, Gabi Matuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let me start with some calls, then go to the voice notes. Let me start with Eunice. Good morning to you, Eunice. Is the issue of Ispandla still on your mind this morning?
Yes, Thulasizwe, how are you?
Very well, how are you? Please tell me about it.
Thanks. Yeah, this story of the Ispandla, making a big thing about just a cultural thing. Now, technically, the referee was right according to the rule book, okay? But here, it's merely a goat skin. So what do we need here? We need SAFA to intervene. And is it apt to say for goat's sake, maybe SAFA should have intervened with an international body? Yes. I mean, here comes Tabang Monare. After that, puts a bandage on his skin, and what does he do? He sinks Kaizer Chiefs the other day. He scores a goal. Now, the fact is, SAFA should be negotiating with the international body FIFA. But then again, FIFA itself is conflicted in international issues. If you look at football now with FIFA, so FIFA themselves, when Russia invaded Ukraine, within 4 days, they sanctioned the national team and all clubs from Russia to play in UEFA level
Yeah.
and at international level. Yet the same FIFA cannot even make a statement on Israel when there are calls now for Israel to be banned from international football. FIFA is silent and the genocide is going on. Even yesterday I was watching a video, Thulasizwe, where a former great Eric Cantona, he's saying there's a genocide going on in Gaza. Israel should be banned from there.
Yeah.
I mean, really, FIFA is now silent on this issue. So, and our SAFA is not even commenting on the story that whether Israel should be banned or not, because our government has taken a position. I think maybe you should bring in Danny Jordan here, and we want to know what is SAFA's position on this. If you can recall, not long ago, when there was a demonstration in Loftus, where there was a Bafana were playing a match against Malawi, I think it was, and there was a peaceful demonstration there. SAFA brought in heavy-handed police there and the tear gas a small group of protesters there. So what I'm saying is, even in Palestine, there in Gaza, if you can, not long ago, there was a guy who was called the Pele of Palestine there.
Yes, I remember
Suleiman
when he was
Al-Obeid,
killed.
and he was killed. What was his crime? Queuing up for food.
Yeah.
So I'm saying FIFA itself is conflicted in these matters here.
Gotcha.
And
You
lastly, to Thulasizwe, you know, Kaizer Chiefs should be on the lookout for a coach. There are 2 free agents available. It's either Pizzo Mosimane or Jose Rivero. They should go for one of them too.
Gotcha. Eunice, thank you.
Thanks,
Covering a
Joseph.
wide spectrum of issues that at the heart of it, you may think they have to do with sport, but actually they have to do with a lot more, including that issue about the continued participation of Israel in international sporting events, including football. Part of what I can add to what you were saying there, Eunice, is that you are hearing many voices being added to that call that you are making. Let me give an example. Spain reportedly threatening to boycott the 2026 World Cup if Israel qualifies and are allowed to participate. So the qualifiers are still on the go, but according to reports, Spain is one of those countries that have said if they are coming, we are not playing at that World Cup. So that conversation already live and active. Fred in Limpopo, good morning.
Tulas, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Please go ahead.
Tulas, you know, mine is just to request something which I think is very small.
Yeah.
Can you please just, through the power that you guys are having, request the appointment statistics of Human Science Research Council, Human Rights Commission, CSIR, and then if possible with the South African Reserve Bank. I can rest assure you, it is very clear that in South Africa, there is a high flood of foreigners who are occupying positions that are strategic in nature. That does not require international or external skills, but the inland people.
Yeah.
Believe you me, as long as we are still going to have this kind of a situation whereby we are parachuting people who are international or people who are foreigners in South African posts that are not expecting people with international skills, we are not going anywhere. The human, including Helen Suzman, actually.
Yeah.
The truth that I can tell you, we need to definitely know who's who within those agencies.
Gotcha. Yeah. Fred, thank you for that. As far as the one agency that you've mentioned, they've given us their statistics, the South African Human Rights Commission, as I let you go there, Fred. As far as their numbers are concerned, in this report that they've released in response to some of the criticism that has been coming through, they basically tell us they have 169 employees. Of those, only 7 are non-South Africans. And in terms of senior managers, they're saying that they have 16 senior managers and only 1 is a foreign national. So that's that as far as one agency is concerned. Of course, Fred mentioning other agencies as well. Let's see how the conversation can be shaped around those issues in the coming days. Lots of voice notes coming through, lots and lots of them. So let me just play a few and just, I'll just, give my own sense of what you are saying in a while.
Imagine, Thulas, our country having the most unwalkable city such as Johannesburg, and your president would go on praising Johannesburg. Our president is a liar. It's a great pretender. He actually destroyed our country. I heard him yesterday speaking so softly with loads and loads of pathetic and nauseating promises. Thank you, Willie and Kuma.
Good morning, Tulas. It's Kosnat here. No wonder why cases took long to be filed because of this criminal of the ANC and the Metro Police, JMPD. They are criminals. How come in a land a police assist a criminal to register his personal car under municipality, and that particular person is the rich man and is continuing to enrich himself, because meaningly he was even filling diesel or petrol with a municipality money. Hey, this country, these ANC people, we need to root these people out of power.
No, the answer why Mkwanazi knows more about Gauteng is that the center is Gauteng, but the Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, the Durban harbour is used to ship in drugs, big quantities of drugs. These drug dealers of Gauteng are using KZN, so they link. Thank you. We are in Orange Farm.
Yeah, thank you for that. That makes sense to me in terms of the interconnectedness of some criminal activity. It's inevitable that if you are investigating a murder in KwaZulu-Natal and then you find a firearm, and that firearm, as you do ballistics on it, it turns out it was used in another incident in Gauteng, that it just makes sense that collaboration should not be frowned upon. But of course, this is an allusion to the questions that were raised earlier on, I think by one caller who was saying, why is he Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi so invested in issues of crime in Gauteng, where he's not the commissioner, and some of these activities, according to that caller earlier on, being undertaken without the knowledge and participation of the Gauteng provincial commissioner.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Just a heads up, if you're on your way to Durban, there's a really big backlog of traffic to process through this truck crash. It's down by Tugela River before you get to Tugela River. So if you're going over Van Rynens Pass and sort of heading down the road, Escort, your next big sort of town area, just well before that. But there's a long queue of trucks and vehicular traffic backed up there. Maybe if you're a little bit further north, you might want to pull over and find a service and sit that one out before you join the back of that queue. Pretoria, the N1 running north. A crash this morning going up to Garsfontein. A couple of lanes on the right are closed. It's very heavy on the N1 north. You're queuing right back into Centurion. And because it's visible to those on the big volume southbound, it's heavy on that side as well, from Linwood down passing that crash near Garsfontein. And then the M1 stays pretty solid all the way down to the R21. R21 into Pretoria, queuing at Monument Park and then queuing at Fountain Circle. You normally know what that means on a Friday morning. So you've got a bit of extra backlog to work through there. Crash on Joburg's N3 south before Linksfield Road, just starting to back things up as well. If you're driving Durban side this morning, not too bad, fairly standard. The one exception, really, the M13, just a bit sluggish around Maytime Stores. Not too bad, but you will hit a little bit of a backlog through there. And Cape Town, Baden-Powell Drive, quite heavy. Stellenbosch bound up towards the N2 highway. That's if you're sort of coming away from Khayelitsha. The rest of Cape Town looking fairly, well, a little bit easier for a Friday, although the N1 still queues from Plattercliff down to Cuba. Get a change, and then you pick up straight away sort of another queue, making your way through Marine Drive up over the elevated freeway section. Main road between Muizenberg and St James, heading to Cork Bay, looking a bit slow as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
I'm Andy Lengobe,
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is 9 a.m.
So let's revisit an issue that we touched on a few days ago, the issue of gambling, which we said is on the rise in the country, and the statistics actually bear that out in terms of the billions of rand that are spent in various forms of gambling each year in the country. We mentioned KwaZulu-Natal emerging as one of the hotspots where the boom, we were told, has triggered both profits and alarm. The provincial gambling regulator, KZN ERA, revealing that it generated nearly 700 million rand in revenue over the past year, that lawmakers say that money bolsters the provincial coffers, but also comes at a steep social cost. In the wake of that, there's been this conversation about regulation of gambling as an economic activity. Let's bring in the voice of the South African Responsible Gambling Foundation, who are at the heart and the coalface of some of the social implications of gambling. I'm joined from there by Sibongile Simelane Quntana, who is Executive Director at the South African Responsible Gambling Foundation. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So just listening to that conversation a few days ago, but also taking in the statistics objectively, what is your sense of whether or not there's a rise in problematic gambling that is linked to the rise overall in gambling activity in the country?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to you, to all your listeners. Thulasizwe, the first thing that I would like to say is that there has been a rise, but we have not been paying attention as a country. As the South African Responsible Gambling Foundation, we have been reporting about the rise of problematic gambling and disordered gambling. But I think what Status A and the National Gambling Board has done in recent years is to bring the revenue aspect to it. Because what we have been reporting upon mainly is just problem gambling is on the rise. But there has not been made reference to the actual gross gambling revenue. I think the light that Statistics SA, showed us is that we actually have a problem as a country where revenue is actually increasing, but at the same time, the revenue that is increasing at what expense? Now, let's take the report from the KwaZulu-Natal regulatory authority. In terms of our treatment statistics, they are second of the highest that actually come forward, the people coming forward and say that they need assistance with problematic gambling and disordered gambling. They are after Gauteng. Now, if we look at the economic activity, one will say that KwaZulu-Natal, should not really be, finding themselves to be the second in terms of people that report that they've got problem gambling, especially when you look at where they are standing in terms of the gross gambling revenue. Because if you look at that, there seem to have been a change, a drastic change. In previous years before we went to COVID, in terms of the gross gambling revenue, the province that was highest was Gauteng, followed by KwaZulu-Natal, your Western Cape. That has drastically changed. You find Mpumalanga surpassing your critical economic, Gauteng activities. Like Gauteng used to be it is the economic hub, but when you look at the gross gambling revenue, you see that they've actually fallen behind. Now we need to ask ourselves what has changed. It has changed because when you look at who is actually leading in terms of the market share, it's online gambling activities, not gambling, betting activities. So which means that the more provinces issue licenses, online licenses, the more you will see them generating revenue. The more you will also see the increase in terms of problematic and disordered gambling. So there is a correlation on the three. You issue more licenses, you actually provide people with more opportunities to bet. You then see the rise in desperation, then the rise in problematic gambling and disordered gambling.
So are we as South Africans owed accountability and answers by the provincial gaming boards for some of the decisions that they've been taking?
I would say that all the gambling boards, they issue licenses in terms of their mandate. There is no reckless issuing of licenses. The licenses are issued in line with their legislative mandates. Where we find ourselves as a country is that When we actually looking at how our licenses are issuing, we actually don't do enough education. We don't actually create enough awareness that betting and gambling can actually be problematic. We do our best with all the provincial authorities and some of the operators, but we do that at the backdrop of high unemployment rates. People are desperate in the country, and a lot of people are then substituting their income with gambling because they want to have more money. Consumers are under pressure. They are feeling the heat. And for them to actually substitute or make their income even more, they then go into gambling.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Sibongile Simelane Quntana is Executive Director at the South African Responsible Gambling Foundation. Let's go to N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08.
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
In our top stories, Transport Department shocked at Moyo's murder and court to hear bail closing arguments in Magaqa murder case. Good morning. The National Transport Department has expressed shock at the assassination of the Gauteng chairperson of the National Taxi Alliance, Thamsanqa Moyo. He was shot along the Soweto Highway near Diepkloof yesterday. A group of assailants travelling in vehicles, including a minibus, opened fire on Moyo's bakkie as he was driving from Soweto to the Johannesburg CBD for a taxi-related meeting. Police suspect the attack to be related to taxi-related violence. The department spokesperson, Colin Msibi.
Upon hearing the news of Mr. Moyo's fatal shooting, Minister Chris reached out to the acting Minister of Police, Professor Firoz Kashalia, who gave assurance to Chrissy that a process to establish an investigation team is already underway. Chrissy and Hlengwa have called for calm and space to allow the police to do their investigative work to ensure that those responsible for this barbaric act face the full might of the law.
The Mzimkhulu Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal is today expected to hear closing arguments in the bail application of a former municipal manager accused of killing former councillor and ANC Youth League Secretary-General Sindiso Magaqa. The state is opposing Zwelipanzi Sikosana's bail, arguing he would jeopardize the integrity of the case. He was arrested in July after convicted hitman Sibusiso Ngengwa implicated him and the late district mayor Mluleki Ndobe as the masterminds behind Magaqa's murder. Sikosana was previously arrested in connection with the murder, but the state provisionally withdrew the charges against him. The High Court in Johannesburg is today expected to hand down sentence in the case of Sibusiso Zita. He is convicted of the murder of his former partner, Chef Tembekile Litlape. Zita was arrested after a body was found at their residence in Fourways in Johannesburg in May last year. The deceased's father, Action SA Member of Parliament, Dr. Khosi Litlape, has called for a maximum sentence. 41-year-old Zita pleaded guilty to murder and admitting to stabbing her multiple times. He told the court he considered committing suicide.
After the incident, I was shocked that I could do something like that. And I just wanted it to end. I wanted the misery to end. I was tired of pain and suffering, and I just thought, to hell with it. And I said that to her. I said, I did something bad and I want to kill myself. And she said, no, Daddy, don't. I still need you. That's the only reason I didn't go through with it. And I will serve whatever sentence I must serve. I will do whatever time I need to do. Whatever form of repentance I will do. So I can go back out and be with her and hopefully try and repair what has been damaged.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says he hopes progress will soon be made in South Africa's efforts to improve its relations with the US. His US counterpart, Donald Trump, has said he will not attend the Johannesburg G20 summit in November. But Ramaphosa says he has invited him to accept the G20 presidency handover in person. Ramaphosa told SABC News yesterday that channels had improved in the two countries' talks to address the recent U.S. tariff increase.
The fact that formal negotiations have now started, and it's no longer, tweets and social media messages, it's now formal negotiations. Our people are in the White House talking about important issues of trade and all that. That for us is a great advance. It's a great progress forward, and we're hoping that those discussions will be well concluded.
And finally, the Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations has expressed regret at the move by the U.S. to veto a draft UN Security Council resolution demanding an immediate and a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The U.S. was the only country to vote against the resolution, which also called for increased humanitarian access. U.S. officials said the resolution failed to condemn Hamas or recognize Israel's right to defend itself. The Palestinian representative, Rihad Mansour, expressed his sadness at the move.
This draft resolution represents the bare minimum that humanity, legality, and morality dictate. It is deeply regrettable and painful that it has been blocked, preventing the Security Council from playing its rightful role in the face of these atrocities and to protect civilians in the face of genocide.
Recapping the top story, the National Transport Department has expressed shock at the assassination of the Gauteng chairperson of the National Taxi Alliance, Thamsanqa Moyo. He was shot along the Soweto Highway near Diepkloof yesterday. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Does your wallet need a break? Then an Outsurance quote is just what you need. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. Make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you always get something out. Get a quick and easy quote today. Call 08-600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, soccer action. Kaizer Chiefs are seeking redemption in their CAF Confed Cup opener tomorrow. And today it's cricket action. The Proteas head into Lahore for the second ODI against Pakistan. All the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very heavy backlogs around Pretoria today. This crash on the M1 going north up by Garsfontein itself going north, pushing a big queue back to Centurion. And then the southbound side, everybody having a look on the high volume south. Well, that's a queue from the N4 Emelafleni Highway all the way down past the scene towards Rigel Avenue. Also crash on the R21 going north before you get to Solomon Mashlangu. So if you're on your way to Pretoria up the R21, that's quite heavy. Another crash going into Fountain Circle as well. So there's an additional queue there. And then separately the N14 up through to Euphias Road looking quite heavy as well. Joburg N3 South, a crash at Linksfield Road holding you up towards the Galulis interchange area. Major delay south of Funerinans Pass on your way to Escort. That's that truck crash around Tugela River. It's well before Tugela River, but it's that direction. If you're stuck in traffic there, it is a truck crash scene which is currently being recovered, causing that delay. Durban, the M4 up towards Mshlanga is busy. The N2 through Spaghetti Junction jamming from, well, just after the M7, very slow up into Westwood Mall territory. Cape Town, a lot of pressure on the run through Muizenberg down to Cork Bay. That coastal route is just the busy one this morning. And the N1 inbound currently sitting from around N1 City to Sable Road and then through Woodstock onto the elevated freeway. You pick up an additional queue. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Friday. Good morning and welcome to the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. Let's fuse into the conversation some of the messages that have been coming through on the WhatsApp line. Someone here says, having been following the Gaza saga right through, does Israel still think all the people they killed there are Hamas? That's the question from that person there who didn't sign off, basically touching on that situation in Gaza. We were meant to have a conversation about it a bit earlier on, but battles and sort of difficulties that we had with the line there. And then someone says, this is Hlati in Kagiso, who says, one of the best police officers is forced to sit for hours discussing how their work is disrupted by criminal politicians with high positions. South Africa must ponder on this. Who are these people to stop even the work of law enforcement agents and the best like Mkhwanazi? Hlati in Kagiso asks that question. Let me go to a message from Yazonda in Soweto, who says, how all this time I am respecting blue lights, sirens on the highway, Gandhi, I'm moving for this criminal Matlala, carrying murder weapons and drugs, says Yazonda out in Soweto. And then lastly, let me take this one. Says, Thulasizwe, it almost sounds like you are praising Park Stau for the criminality around those bicycle lanes, bicycle whatever you want to call them. That was Tagari Nje. All right, I'll be as calm as possible. The cycle lanes were unpopular. Part of the reasons were that this was not a priority according to many in Joburg. What I was talking to is the lifestyle that encourages walkability of a city. One of the cities that I visited was Perth a couple of years ago. And I was just astounded at the ability to go from a suburb where my hotel was and get right into the inner city without having to cross a busy intersection, busy highway. I could walk almost on the banks of a park, on the edge of a park that had water on the other side. And I was able to just it was a nice walk, 4 kilometers or so, and it felt like there was planning that went into it. I think that's what I was talking to. Was I championing for the bicycle lanes and the procurement, the thuggery you talk about? Absolutely not. But we do need to have a different conversation about walkability of this city. Let me take one more. I did read that message. Let me see. Okay, one asking whether the Human Rights Commission hears the cries of South Africans. All right, I'll go through them and then I'll read more a bit later on. But let's keep the conversation going. Do call me 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Before we start the third hour, I do need to mention that we were meant to speak to Professor Loli Makhubu Badenhorst, the Pan South African Language Board chairperson. We are moving that conversation to Monday next week at 8:20. It is an important conversation that has to do with the commemoration of International Day of Sign Languages on the 23rd of September 2025. So we will have that conversation, but we're just moving it slightly to Monday at 8:20. You'll know, of course, about the importance of sign language in South Africa, having been added as an official language to the country's official languages. So we are going to be talking about the kind of work that is being done to promote the use of sign language in South Africa with Professor Loli Makhubu Badenhorst. And that conversation, you can look out for it on Monday at 8:20. With that said, then, let's get into it. The third hour of the Morning Brief on this Friday.
Senala have a masterclass game plan to secure a win and demonstrate why they are also called the Stars. However, the Buccaneers want to conquer the match from the first to the final whistle. This is the preliminary round of the CAF Champions League. Do not miss out on this thrilling first leg clash, DRDFC versus Orlando Pirates, this Saturday, 20 September at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
14 minutes after 8. So let's get into this conversation. It's important because, in the lived experience that we all have, you do hear from time to time disputes about the estate of a person who has passed on. Well, each year, the National Wills Week is marked in this country. In fact, for this year, the dates have been the 15th to the 19th of September. It's an initiative that is supported by the various legal professional bodies as well as legal practitioners themselves, just volunteering and giving of their time and expertise to help people to arrange their estates and their affairs while still alive, making provision for when they are not able to speak for themselves when they are dead about what happens to their estate. So let me speak to Mary Jane Mphahlele, attorney in family law, who joins me now to talk about National Wills Week 2025. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So let me just ask about, whether or not we're finding that the conversation is moving about people getting the sense of appreciation of the importance of having a will. Do the initiatives such as National Wills Week help you? Do you see that there's perhaps a spike in people coming forward and saying, actually, my affairs are not in order, I should get a will drafted?
Thank you so much for having me, Thulasizwe, and good morning to you too and your listeners. Absolutely. We get an influx of a lot of people who have never done wills in their entire life, and we also get people who just want to update their wills. So the initiative is really helping South Africans to, get their affairs in order and make sure that their estate planning is done for the unfortunate event that they pass on.
So just tell me about why it's important to have a valid will. What kind of problems does it obviate? Does it avert post-death?
A will ensures that your assets are distributed according to your wishes after you pass away. That's one of the most important aspects of having a will. It helps avoid potential disputes where, there's a huge estate and we have to follow the interstate succession to know who is entitled to what. Some people find it difficult to accept interstate succession. So if you have a will, we know, even the person who administers your estate is aware who's supposed to get what and who's not supposed to get what, and how the estate in its entirety must be shared amongst whoever they leave behind. So without having a valid will, the law would decide, obviously, who inherits your estate. And you wouldn't want that. You would. It's more preferable if you have a will in that, we know what you want. It would outline how you want your estate to, be shared amongst the people that you leave behind, as opposed to the law deciding that if you, for instance, you leave minor children, those minor children would not get cash benefits from your estate because they're minor children. You would have contingencies for those things if you have a will. For instance, you can.
Sorry, do you get people saying, I don't have a large estate, I'm not rich, I'm poor actually, and what I have is actually a lot of debt more than anything else. So why do I need to have a valid will?
Absolutely, we do have people who say, I do not have much, but, I don't see the reason to have a will. But having a will, we must always look beyond what you have and also cater for your debts. I believe that even if you don't have a lot of assets, if you have debts, you can still have a will in that will would inform whoever you leave behind if you have contingencies for those debts to say, if I pass on, I have this policy. If I pass on and my estate can't satisfy my debts, this is what needs to be done. We do get people who don't have enough assets, but obviously, you can't give away things in a will if you don't have assets, but you can deal with other aspects of your estate like the debts, as I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, but you attorneys are also not cheap, hey? Mary Jane, you are not cheap, and I suppose a lot of people are perhaps daunted and just thinking about, now I have to approach an attorney. Are there other ways around it? Can a person actually validly write a will without involving you guys, an attorney, at one point of the process, or is that simply not allowed in law?
It is allowed. However, you would need to ensure that your will complies with the law. It must be signed by 2 competent witnesses. The beneficiaries can be witnesses, and if you just write a simple one-pager, clear, simple will, I believe that it should be able to assist you, but it's always advisable that you consult with an estate planning attorney for these things, because your beneficiaries are the ones who are going to have to deal with the validity of that will. So it's always, advisable that you consult with an attorney to ensure that you're leaving a valid will that will be able to, assist in administering your estate in the manner in which you had chosen.
Lastly, let me ask you about many South Africans arrange their affairs and live their lives according to customary indigenous law and customs, really. Do I need to provide for a will if I live according to that, to cultures and traditions of South Africa?
Absolutely. Everyone who has, I would say, more than 1,000 in their possession, they should obviously have a will. It doesn't matter what socioeconomic level you are on, because the law applies to everyone else. If your estate is more than 250,000, it would be administered in terms of the laws of South Africa. Even if it's lower than 250,000, you would still need to administer that estate. However, when it's over 250,000, you might even have to get the assistance of an attorney to administer your estate. So to make that process even more simpler for the person who's administering your estate and the ones that you leave behind, just have a will.
So I feel like I need to ask you once again about how to do a valid will. And the reason for that is that perhaps the conversation we are having triggers something in someone who's sitting at home. The laptop is not very far before they rush off to work, pick it up and decide to jot down 1 or 2 things. Just tell me about what needs to go into whatever document that a person decides that perhaps they're not going to involve you guys, the legal professionals, but I'm just going to write it out, print it out and put it under a mattress. One day when I'm gone, someone will pick it up. What needs to be there in the simplest possible terms?
Clarity and simplicity. Use clear wording to avoid misinterpretation. Don't try to, use ChatGPT to get big words for your will. Simple, clear. Appoint your own executor. Choose a trustworthy person or even a professional to administer your estate. And an executor is one of the most important people you can appoint in a will, because they are the ones who are going to be taking the major decisions when it comes to administering your estate. When we talk about administering your estate, we're talking about dealing with your assets and liabilities when you pass on. And if they are minor children, you might want to nominate someone to take care of the children if both parents pass away, or there's one remaining parent and you would want to make provision for that if you pass on and the children remain without parents, then there is someone to take care of them. Witnessing. A will must be witnessed by 2 competent witnesses. And also just remember to update your will regularly after you have drafted it for yourself.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning and those insights. An important conversation always to have. That is Mary Jane Mphahlele, attorney in family law at Mphahlele Attorneys.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy?
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
My guitar. I try to practice a lot of Tracy Chapman. My favorite foreign language is French. Bonjour, comment ça va?
This by Sompo Long Range Gagana on match days live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, before we do that, let's talk the Limpopo Book Fair 2025. It is happening from the 15th to the 20th of September at the University of Limpopo, and the theme for this year is Literary Harvest, Stories from Our Soil. Let's speak to Salamina Mosese, who is a children's book author, who joins us now to talk a bit more about this. Good morning to you, Salamina, and thank you for your time. The context, of course, of it all is the literacy and numeracy crisis that we face as a country. But I suppose it takes small activities and small actions, concerted efforts, such as the Limpopo Book Fair, to try and address all of that. How important is it in that effort?
Good morning to you and your listeners. Thank you for having me on. I think what the Limpopo Book Fair has managed to do is incredible. For example, they have tried to make it really exciting for children with this invention of the literary sports games. So if you can imagine, children love sports, they love playing games, they love competing against each other. But now, if you're doing little, puzzles with spelling, the correct word here and there, I think what really needs to happen for us to start to be able to solve this literacy crisis is giving children a completely new way to engage with language, with books, with literature. And this is just one way that the book fair has managed to do this. So as you said, it's been running for the past 5 days. Saturday is the last and final day of the book fair. And that's also where I jumped in. Because they will have book readings with authors. There's a whole host of programs happening, a puppet show, storytelling session, read aloud, games, etc. And all of this is specifically designed for young learners to be able to discover a story. And these stories are a myriad of stories. There's poetry, etc. So I'm really excited that this is the way that they've chosen to do it.
How do we make book fairs, there's events that happen once a year or so, to be the foundation for a sustainable pattern and involvement of various stakeholders in activities such as, reading with children and just sustaining it going forward?
This program does something they call a village, a story. It's a community circuit program. So to answer your question, it's going to take us as authors, as civil society, as organization, as government, most importantly, going into these communities, having interactive sessions with children, making it exciting. With children's entertainment, we're competing with big, franchises from the West, from, all parts of the world. Where we need to get to as South Africa is remember that we need to entice children back to, our indigenous language books. But we need to create characters that are memorable, stories that they will engage in, that they will relate to, that are fun. And then obviously the vocab and the learning and the language will come with it.
All right, I've got to thank you for that, and all of the best with the rest of the book fair out in Limpopo at the University of Limpopo. That's Salamina Mosese, children's book author.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
It's a very good morning to you. Let's start with soccer. Kaizer Chiefs hoping to put their recent premiership defeat behind them. They open their CAF Confed Cup campaign tomorrow evening. Amakosi face the Angolan side Kabuskop in their prelim round first leg. And it's all happening at the 11th of November Stadium in Luanda. Kickoff is at 5 p.m. and Chiefs are hoping that their new signing, Siphesihle Ndlovu, is going to keep the players sharp and strong. They've also got plenty of their experienced figures like Bruce Bavuma providing leadership. Now, Chiefs will be aiming for a positive away result to take into next week's return leg, all happening at FNB Stadium. Now, South Africa and Angola, they'll meet in the final of the CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations 2026 COSAFA qualifier in Harare. That's tomorrow, with both sides already assured of their spot at next year's continental finals. South Africa stormed into the decider with a 7-0 win over Comores, while Angola edged past Mozambique 1-0. And the final kicks off at 2 p.m. tomorrow at the Ngoni Stadium. We also have news from Manchester City. They produced a dominant performance to win 2-0 against 10-man Napoli in their Champions League opener. All happened at the Etihad Stadium. Newcastle were punished for a series of missed chances as Manchester United loanee Marcus Rashford scored his first goals in Barcelona colours to secure a 2-1 win at St. James Park. Benfica, they've appointed Jose Mourinho as their manager. Mourinho succeeds Bruno Lage, who was sacked after the shock Champions League defeat against Karabakh. The former Chelsea boss returns to management less than a month after being dismissed by Fenerbahce following a Champions League playoff defeat by his new club, Benfica. And finally, cricket. Marizan Cup has parked the age story with a statement knock in Lahore. The 35-year-old all-rounder smashed that unbeaten 121 and shared a record 216-run third wicket stand with Tasman Brits, who finished 101 as the Proteas women cruised past Pakistan by 8 wickets, and that was in the first ODI. Cup bowled 7 testing overs before bossing the tricky surface, later saying that the conditions would have been challenging. South Africa take a 1-0 lead into today's second ODI. First ball being bowled at 12:30. And that's your sport here on the Morning Brief. Swing by on SFM at around 12:30 with John Helica. For more sport, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, police in Cape Town have arrested 6 men suspected to be part of an extortion syndicate. They say they made the arrests in Delft and Mfuleni yesterday following a tip-off on a syndicate extorting money from the community. The National Transport Department has expressed shock at the assassination of the Gauteng chairperson of the National Taxi Alliance, Tamsanga Moyo. He was shot along the Soweto Highway near Diepkloof yesterday. And the Mzimkhulu Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal is today expected to hear closing arguments in the bail application of a former municipal manager accused of killing former councillor and ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaka. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still slow on the M1 North in Pretoria. The earlier crash in number 4 Garsfontein Road is the reason for the backlog queues back towards Botha Avenue, just off the N1. There's also a crash on the R21 at Monument Park and a collision at Fountain Circle worth avoiding on this routing. So it's Christina de Wit coming off the N14. So the N14 queues up to Eupheus Road. Eupheus Road from the industrial side queues to the N14, and those routes then jammed onto Christina de Wit and into the circle. So if you can avoid that, be a good call. It is heavily backed up in that area because of that crash scene. Joburg's N3 South, a crash at Linksfield. Delays coming down from Alexandra area. Still quite heavy approaching this truck crash between Bergville and the Tugela River. If you're Durban bound, there is some pressure to work through passing that scene. Spaghetti Junction, Durban area looking all right this morning. Don't forget the closure this weekend. N2 North linked to the N3 inbound. Closed through 4 levels from 6 p.m. Saturday until 4 a.m. Monday. Friday. Make sure you're taking either the M4 or the M7 exits before you get into that closure this weekend. Cape Town easing up for Friday. Just the M5, a bit sticky on the run through Rondebosch towards the N2. The N1 inbound, quite slow, still approaching the city centre. Backlogs to Marine Drive. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauling Lechela one more time this morning. Ndauling, tell me about Coca-Cola Beverages South Africa and the plans to cut jobs. That's not good.
Not good at all, Thulas. They are preparing to cut more than 600 jobs, adding to the growing list of major firms retrenching workers in the country. Now, the Food and Allied Workers Union, which received notification of the planned restructuring earlier this month, has criticized the soft drinks producer for what it describes as a flawed consultation process. According to the union, the company has not followed the proper procedures set out in labor law and appears unwilling to engage with workers. The company has defended its position, saying it is adapting its operations to industry changes and has begun discussions with both union members and individual staff who may be affected. Now, it insisted that no final decision has been taken. The possible layoffs mirror a broader trend of job losses sweeping across different industry and also adds to the unemployment crisis with the jobless rate at 33.2%. The news at Coca-Cola also comes just months after its parent company unveiled a 365 million rand investment in a new production technology at its Midrand plant. That investment was billed as a sign of long-term confidence in the local market, with Coca-Cola executives highlighting plans to expand their footprint in Africa while producing and sourcing as much as possible within the region. So the announcement around job losses does come as a big surprise.
Yeah, but on the other side, Google committing to new investments on this continent, including in South Africa.
The group unveiling a fresh wave of investment in the continent and naming South Africa as one of the beneficiaries. This as the US tech giant expands its push to strengthen digital infrastructure across the continent. The company announced that it will establish 4 new subsea cable hubs covering Africa's north, south, east, and west, with South Africa set to host the hub serving the southern region. Google described the hubs as digital corridors that will enhance connectivity within the continent and link the continent more securely to the rest of the world. Google, however, has not revealed how much it'll be spending on this initiative. Now, this move builds on the 17.3 billion rand commitment Google made in 2022, which it says has already been delivered. That investment focused on broadband and infrastructure. Projects include its Johannesburg-based Google Cloud region, the Equinox subsea cable running along Africa's western coast, and Umoja, the first fiber route directly linking the continent to Australia through East and Southern Africa. Now, these efforts aim to increase internet access and, in turn, drive use of services, of Google services that is the likes of Search, Chrome, Gmail, as well as YouTube.
All right, lastly, Ndauling, what kind of a trading day can we expect on this Friday?
The local markets likely to open mixed, another quiet day when it comes to corporate action. And so investors will be putting the week's monetary policy moves into perspective. The rand, in the meantime, making gains this hour at 17.38 to the dollar. Meanwhile, oil is trending lower at $66 per barrel this morning. And then back to equities over in Wall Street, futures are flat with the recent Nvidia Intel deal on investors' radar. Then in Asia, stocks on track to end the week mixed as traders digest commentary from the Bank of Japan. This after it left rates unchanged.
All right, Ndauling, have yourself a great weekend. Ndauling Lechela, having kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets over the last 2.5 hours.
This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
21 minutes to 9. I think it's fair to say that the debate that we've been having about tax in the country this year has been rather heated, right? From the time we were debating the possibility of a VAT hike and the subsequent postponement of the budget. Remember that? It feels like a lifetime ago, but it was at the center of it. It had to do with a form of taxation and its implications, its social implications. Now, in the last few days, we've been talking, for example, about schools, private schools that are up in arms, some of them, about the potential of being asked and being told to deregister as VAT vendors, which they say would impact them and curb their ability to pass on whatever benefits they were gaining from the tax system to beneficiaries down the line in the form of, for example, bursaries and the likes, and better infrastructure and access to schooling. So let's take that conversation forward in the context of an upcoming dialogue that is known as Economy is Care, and it's happening on Sunday. So let me speak to Togo Madonko, who is researcher at the Southern Center for Inequality Studies at Wits University. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Is it a fair assessment, the way I describe it, that we've had a rather heated conversation about taxation in this country, the tax regime, tax policies, as well as how they implicate and affect ordinary South Africans? Have we gained a better understanding? Have we been better for this debate?
Absolutely. We've been better for this debate because it's thrown a light on where the government's money comes from. So this is often not fully understood, that every South African is a taxpayer because we pay value-added tax, because we have the fuel levies, because we have taxes on tobacco and alcohol and so forth. Living in the South Africa taxpayer. Debate about how we structure the raising of revenue for government services and talk about the purpose of that revenue for government services is very, very important. And so the discussion that the New Economy Hub and Oxfam are having this Sunday is really about what kind of economy do we want to have? And we want to have an economy that is a caring economy. And so we want to raise revenues in a way that both is caring, so doesn't disadvantage people, but also in a way that enables us to have public services. So in terms of health, education, social development, housing, water, public transport, and so forth. So it is a critical debate that we have pay attention to cycle around revenue raising.
Yeah, and part of how you're framing it, you're talking about taxing fairly, spending justly, as well as models for truly progressive taxation. These are concepts that have been coming up even as we followed that discussion. But what do we mean when we say, truly progressive taxation and the idea of tax justice? What are we talking about?
So at a very simple simple level, we're talking about people who have a lot of money should pay their fair share in taxes to support the state that supports them. And those who don't earn a lot of money shouldn't get taxed more than their fair share, or it should be in relation to what they can afford, because they also benefit from the state services. So nobody is an island in this country. Even if you're a super ultra rich billionaire, you cannot claim that that money is outside of the state, because you drive on the same roads, you breathe the same air, you drink the same water, and so you are dependent on the same services. You get the same tax breaks if you have shares in companies and so forth. So at a very basic level, when we talk about tax justice, we want to say those who have money and can afford it should pay their fair share, and those who don't have money should not be disproportionately prejudiced by the tax system. So, in other words, they shouldn't have to pay more than their fair share.
So when you were observing, as I'm sure you were, the whole debate around the VAT hike happening at various levels and platforms, and I imagine you probably took part in some of those debates, what's your sense of how attuned those who are in decision-making positions around taxation policy are to this debate about the impact of VAT hikes, as well as, that whole conversation about a wealth tax, the possibility thereof, as well as tougher capital gains taxes?
So the VAT tax debate was critical because it drew into stark contrast about how we tax in this country. And it is a global initiative really driven by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank and other financial players that we should now start going for what we call stealth taxes or indirect taxes, which are actually quite regressive, and in the sense that everybody pays a VAT regardless of what your income is. So it's not a fair system of taxation. It has its important advantages in relation to looking at value-added tax on luxury goods, for example. So there is a little bit of nuance. So we should be paying a huge amount of VAT on luxury yachts, luxury cars, and so forth. But we shouldn't be paying enormous amounts of VAT on broccoli and vegetables and other kinds of goods that poor households disproportionately depend on, and a disproportionate amount of their income is spent on. And so the VAT debate was one about what is fair, who should bear the burden of funding the state. And so what the argument is from the progressive circles was that move away from that. We don't actually have to look at that. Treasury set up a kind of straw man in the sense of saying we've got nothing else to go for but that. But actually, we do have the opportunity and various models in terms of a wealth tax to tax net assets of the richest individuals. So, just 3% or less tax on the wealthiest 1% in this country. So I'm not talking about your middle class here. We're talking about the ultra rich could generate 59 billion rand, which was way more than the proposed VAT increase. And it could even be for a short period, like a solidarity tax, which was proposed right back in 1994 to introduce a wealth tax for just a short period of around 3 to 5 years, to be able to say, look, people really benefited from the apartheid system, and so they should then contribute to building this new nation through a fair tax system, through a wealth tax. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But we still have the opportunity to introduce wealth taxes. The other thing we have to do is reduce tax breaks to the rich, and those are in the form of the kinds of ways in which people dodge paying tax. And rich people are able to do this. They create trusts, they hide their assets, they don't earn income. If you're a big CEO, they earn stocks and bonds and so forth. So we also need to kind of figure out how to stop tax dodging by the ultra rich as well, to ensure that funds can flow into our schools and our hospitals and our roads and our water systems.
All right, and that sets it up then for a truly fascinating and important conversation that will be happening as part of the Economy is Care dialogue that is taking place on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 21st of September. Thank you for that. That's Togo Madongo, who is researcher at the Southern Center for Inequality Studies at Wits University.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's been a very busy morning around Pretoria. We do have this crash on the M1 before Garsfontein. That's a heavy backlog. If you're on the M1 North, you're going to sort of get to Porter Avenue. You'll see some brake lights up ahead, and then you won't get past and out of that until you've got almost to Garsfontein. It's a really big, heavy queue. Separately, a crash going into Fountain Circle off Christina de Wit, and a little Friday operation further up on the N14. As you come up towards that R101 on-ramp. So very heavy. The N14 queues approaching EU Fies, and then big delays splitting down to Christina de Wit, and then big delays going up into Pretoria Central. EU Fies Road getting caught in that mess as well, with some heavy traffic coming across from Voortrekker Road into that sort of N14. Snarl up area. Joburg N3 South collision at Linksfield causing delays through Edenvale. A breakdown at Galilee's N12. Joburg bound quite heavily backed up there as well. Still with that truck crash between Bergville and Tugela River. If you've come over Van Rennen's Pass heading to Durban shortly down the road, as you get past Bergville, you will enter a sort of just a crawl of truck and vehicular traffic to get past that one. Cape Town easing this morning. N1 inbound, bit slow though at Marine Drive over the elevated freeway. The M5 is slow, just queuing through Rondebosch to get into the N2, but the rest of the highway networks and routes around Cape Town pretty easy this Friday morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Who's behind the mask? A singing pineapple? A disco dancing dokolosh? It can only mean one thing. It's the Masked Singer US Season 9, the only show where celebrities hide behind wild costumes and even wilder vocals. Is that Beyonce? No. It's your dentist dressed as a giant taco. Unmask the madness, the mystery, and the mayhem. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. S3's got the masks, the music, and maybe your favorite celeb in a flamingo suit. Don't miss it.
This week on FC Meets, Tisetso and Mandile are joined by the Orlando Pirates Dobsonville Supporters Branch. Join us as they discuss coaching changes, star players, and the overall success of the mighty Buccaneers. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Saturday, 20 September at 6 p.m. Also available on SABC+. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Richencha Game. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
10 minutes to 9. So I want to swiftly go through some of the messages and calls that have been coming through. So if we can keep it moving, and you'll be hearing less from me and more from you. That's ideally what I want to do. Madhu, I received a message from Madhu on the WhatsApp line. Firstly, let me say, Madhu, I love how many emojis you use. It's incredible. Almost every sentence has an emoji. Anyway, Madhu says, "Good morning, Thulasizwe." Emoji, smiley emoji. Then says, regarding the Bafana Group C World Cup qualifiers, if FIFA decide that we were wrong and therefore deduct 3 points and dock 3 goals against us, does it mean we will also lose the 3 points we received for beating Lesotho in round 1, and the 2 goals we scored will be deducted? So if that is the case, then we will be penalized 6 points and 5 goals. That means we are dead. 3 crying emojis from Madhu. I don't know, Madhu. It sounds to me like you've already taken out the calculator in that way that we don't want to be doing around Bafana once again. Then someone else here says a really serious issue. I'm a resident and worker of Madibeng local municipality. In 2014, National Department of Water and Sanitation appointed Magali's Water to upgrade the water treatment plant in Brits. It is now 11 years. The plant is not complete. People of Letlabile, Motutlong, Mabuluka and many other areas are suffering as a result of poor management by Magali's Water on municipal project. Could you please interact with both Water Department and Mahali's Water on the matter? As residents, we had to drill boreholes or receive water through trucks. My name is Jeremiah Boni Sitole. Okay, it seems I did the wrong thing there that I should not have done with that naming of that person. All right, thank you for that. We'll see if we can take that issue forward. Let me go to the calls. Alba, talk to me about inflation. Good morning.
Papa Simelane.
Ndate, Ligai.
I'm good, and you?
Talk to me.
Will you please maybe explain to me like you're explaining to a 5-year-old child? According to what I always hear you and Dowling talk about, it's like the Reserve Bank is targeting inflation to be around 3% in order to help the poor.
Yes.
Is that so?
Yes.
And I think the other day I heard Dowling saying something like the Federal Reserve Bank in the U.S., they go about their business looking at the job market, that maybe many people lost their jobs or that kind of thing. So I started wondering, why is not our Reserve Bank doing like that? Because in South Africa, no jobs at all. People are continue to losing their job.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, in them targeting inflation, it's like they increase interest rates, which means at the end of the day, it affects me. Because if I go to borrow money, like now, because the salary is too small, then I have to supplement my salary on a short-term loan. So it becomes more expensive for me to get the loan in order to survive throughout the month. So it means they're making life more difficult for me as a poor person.
Yeah, Alba, thank you for that. I think what we can do is ask Ndauling to address it more pointedly, the relationship between inflation targeting and stimulating job creation in the manner that the Federal Reserve does with that equation in the United States. I think that's something we can pick up with Ndauling, as she always does. She will do a deep dive into it. As for the inflation targeting, I think the argument from the Reserve Bank is that interest rates hike is less of the two evils, right? They know that you will take pain if they raise interest rates, but they say inflation, because it affects everyone, including the poorest households, therefore is actually the one that they want to target. Moses in Bramley, good morning. Please reflect for me quickly on the commission.
Yeah, man. Good morning, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
Yeah, man. The revelations that are coming out of this commission, it's very interesting. And it's scary just to reflect, going back, that we were actually led by people we think they are there to protect us on a day-to-day basis. Country, we are having scumbags masquerading as our leaders. These African national criminals, the ANC. You know, I mean, you cannot have people who are using blue light, whereas they are not supposed to. You know, I've seen this when the African national criminals disbanded the Scorpion. We should actually connect the dots from there, because the Scorpion were busy stinging, and these guys, they said, no, we must disband this. We could have seen from that moment that here we've got a bunch of crooks, bunch of people who are not good to lead citizenry. I think the ANC should be brought to 3% when we go to the next election.
Moses, I've got to move on.
Yeah, are not credible people.
Thank you, Moses. That's Moses out in Bremlimpo. Very quickly for me. Good morning.
Yeah, I hope I'll be quick. Last night I listened to Dian Kolabana refuting the accusation by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi.
Yes.
One of the arguments that Kolabana raises is that by the time when she was releasing the article that has something to do with sensitive intelligence issues of procurement of building KZN, she was not a member of the JSCI, Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. I think let's grant it for her. But then on 31st March 2025, Kolabana and others, they were sworn in as members of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. On 10th of July, Kolabana repeat the same statement she made in February in a form of a question to the Minister of Police in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
She asked the Minister of Police about matters relating to her statement she released in February when she argued that she was not an MP. And the minister responded by saying, this matter you're asking me is a bit sensitive. I would prefer that it goes to the JSCI.
Yeah.
Now, I know we don't have time. I think one thing which should happen is that it is obvious that Ms. Kola Barnard was abusing her membership of JSCI to mess up things and divulge classified sensitive information.
Right.
I suggest three things that should happen. One, she must recuse herself from the ad hoc committee that is investigating Mkhwanazi, because her name is mentioned there, she's conflicted. Secondly, she must recuse herself from the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, because she has been accused of divulging intelligence information. Thirdly, she must be charged for contravening Intelligence Act and divulging state information. I think these DA members have been abusing this membership there by using anonymous leaks. So
Gotcha.
it's a serious issue for me.
Mpo, thank you for that. That's Mpo out in Sikukune. Let me play one or two voice notes. Arthur, unfortunately, I'm going to have to ask that I call you back and prioritize you for our next conversation on Monday or the day after. Let me take one or two voice notes. This one has to do with also the same issue of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, as well as one on the South African Human Rights Commission.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Hey, General Mkhwanazi is spilling the beans now. My jaw dropped when I heard that one Rafali who was mentioned as one communicating with Ted Matlala while Matlala was in prison. This Rafali is the one who many SAB radio stations used to call to comment about crime as a crime and something expert. And is the one who published a report about the school uniform recently. There's no one to trust in this republic. No, people are masquerading as crime experts and while they're helping criminals. It's interesting.
Yeah, thank you for that. I don't have time to play the other voice note that I wanted to play. I did hear that, but I wondered and I wasn't sure if it's the same person that you're talking about. But it's worth double checking on our side, just the responsibility on our side. But I hear the point you are making about the concern that it raises for you. I just want to be sure for myself, right, before taking a position on that issue. Thank you for listening and thank you for your robust engagement. And we've come to the end of yet another edition of the Morning Brief at the end of another week. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. The Talking Point is up next with Kathy Mohlahlana here on SAFM after the news. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and you've been briefed.